What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy, the hater, up in this piece, you know what I'm saying? And this video is going to be about basically the disaster of a state of WWE and, more importantly, NXT, right? The fact of the matter is, going into this WrestleMania, there are, I've counted them, 0 stories. Now, you could argue that there is a story between Cucky Owens and Sami Zayn, but the hater wouldn't know that because the hater has ignored that storyline completely. That should tell you everything you need to know. Every storyline is garbage, if they exist, and most of the time there is no storyline. Think of it this way, right? We're going to have on one side of the bracket, Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton, right? On the other side of the bracket, we're going to have Rhea Ripley versus somebody else. Now, what is the difference between these two matches? In other words, if Charlotte challenged Rhea Ripley and the other woman challenged Tiffany Stratton, what would change? Absolutely nothing. Because none of the women that are in the Elimination Chamber have any capacity to do anything interesting. You know what I mean? At the main event of WrestleMania. I mean, let's be real, it's not going to be the main event, but I do think one of the women's matches has to be, because what else are you going to put? You're not going to put Jey Uso in there, I'll tell you that. But anyways, the point is, we got Liv Morgan. She already feuded with Rhea Ripley for like a year. Bianca Belair brings nothing to the table. That's just going to be like just another match. Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley, great. Just another match. It's literally, you could put Bianca Belair versus Tiffany Stratton and the same thing would happen. You know, nobody cares. Alexa Bliss, there's going to be no story there unless she joins the Wyatts. Then again, you know, she could join the Wyatts and go after Tiffany Stratton. Same thing would happen, right? Then we got Bayley, and we got Naomi and Roxanne Perez. Like, you see that there's no storyline, not even, like, built into this, you know? Then you've got, like, you know, a bunch of other things that are going to happen at WrestleMania. I anticipate some form of, like, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens situation, right? The conclusion of that feud. How can anyone be excited about that? I don't think it's possible. Then you got Gunther versus Jey Uso. That has a storyline, like, in the strictest of sense, it has a storyline, because the storyline is nobody believes in Jey Uso, and he's going to beat Gunther, right? But it's literally the same storyline that Sami Zayn had last year. It's the exact same thing, you know? Except now, it's for, like, the World Heavyweight title, which in my opinion goes below the Intercontinental title, because nobody cares about this title. So there's that. And also, it's like Jey Uso, who's never won anything, instead of Sami Zayn. So that makes it a bit more special. But it's literally the same storyline. You know? Just have Jey Uso go train with Chad Gable, and there you have it, right? Now, I know other things are going to happen. But what are the foreseeable storylines? It's going to be Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins in a I don't like you match. It's going to be CM Punk versus Logan Paul in another, like, I don't like you match. Now, with all that being said, it's like, I understand that's the basic premise of wrestling, right? The basic premise of wrestling is, I don't like you, so I'm going to beat you up. I get that, right? But we need a little bit more. Because if that's the case, then the match is just the same as the other matches. You know? We're going to find out which one of these two guys that doesn't like each other is going to win. So what? Right? Like, does it really make a difference if, like, Sami Zayn beats Kevin Owens, or if Kevin Owens beats Sami Zayn? Does it make any difference? It makes no difference, right? The same thing's going to happen the next Monday or the next Friday. They're going to come out and say, it's a new year, I'm going to, like, do my best, you know? The same shit. Like, that's the problem here, you know? A storyline would be something like John Cena winning a 17th world title. Now, if that happens, the hater will be the first to say, that's an enjoyable storyline. But we're not there yet, right? We're 2 months away from WrestleMania, almost exactly. And despite this, we have 0 storylines heading into WrestleMania. And we have effectively 0 storylines heading into Elimination Chamber. But that I can understand. Because the Chamber is like there, kind of like a Royal Rumble Part 2, right? Where they're just trying to, like, establish who's going to be at WrestleMania. So you can't start the storyline until you know that. But it's like, what's the storyline going to be, you know? Like, I'm tired of the same 3 storylines. We basically get I don't like you, which is like the number 1 storyline. Then we get you've betrayed me, or I'm going to betray you, right? And it's pretty much just those two. And then occasionally, like increasingly in rarer and rarer forms, we get the I want to be champion storyline. Like, it seems like nobody wants to be champion. Even John Cena, it's like an afterthought. John Cena wants to like win the title, but he's excited about being at WrestleMania, you know? So he's more excited about main eventing WrestleMania than he is about winning the title. Now, with all that, which is inconsistent with Cena's character, but another time. The point I'm trying to make here is that this is not sufficient, right? We need people to come up with storylines. And in order to come up with storylines, we need people to have arcs and characters, right? We need someone to have a reason to exist. So, for example, the inevitable, like Finn Balor turns on Judgment Day thing is not interesting, right? Because what is Finn Balor's goal in turning against them? What was his goal in turning against Damian Priest other than like, he's jealous, you know? We need something more. We need something that's crafted a little bit better, right? We had this in the past all the time, you know? All the time, we had storylines. A lot of people look back at it poorly, but for example, I'll give you an example, right? We got Triple H versus Booker T, right? The subtle racism of Triple H in kayfabe, I'm not here saying he's like a racist, you know? The implications of that feud, even though like race should have nothing to do with anything, let alone wrestling, the implications were that Triple H and Ric Flair looked down on Booker T because he's from the street, and Triple H and Ric Flair are supposed to be these like suit-wearing motherfucks, you know, suit-wearing tough guys, but suit wearers nevertheless. And Booker T isn't the type of guy that's going to wear a suit. Not until the main event Mafia, that is, but that's a different story. And the point was that Booker T is not presentable as a champion, right? But the implications were that it's because he's black, right? In my opinion, this is a great storyline, right? A lot of people got butthurt because they get offended by things they see on TV, you know? It's just a storyline, motherfucks. Like Booker T understands that Triple H doesn't really hate him on a personal level. But you dumb fucks, you people that have never like interacted with anybody, a lot of you are like, oh, Triple H really hated him. You know, like the kind of comments that I see on my videos are like, Triple H always resented black men. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Oh, this and that and this. These are all storylines, right? Even like Triple H wearing blackface, right? That's a storyline, you know? Now, maybe he shouldn't have been the face doing that, but it's a storyline, right? JBL's kicking out Mexicans from the border. It's a storyline. You know, that's why wrestling was amazing. Because people still talk today about Booker T and Triple H. And people, it was done so well that they blended it into an actual, like, theory that Triple H is a racist. That's how good he was at portraying that, right? People don't give Triple H credit for his, like, you know, ability to make you believe, you know? Triple H was a great wrestler back in the day, you know? Not like an elite, but a great wrestler. So it's just like that, right? That's what a storyline is. Now, if everybody is offended at every possible permutation of a storyline, then it's like WWE is going to get scared, which is exactly what's happening, which brings me to my point about a request that my boy Hadi made. You know, and this is fulfilling that request to a degree, because now we're going to shift gears and talk about why this is happening, right? The fact of the matter is, we have a situation where we have no stories because people are offended at everything, right? You could make a legitimate, good storyline, you know, or a comedy storyline. Like, in one of the old Smart Busters videos, they said, this is like back in the day, obviously, right? They're like, why don't they have, like, the Fashion Police, which is Breezango, feud against, like, Black Lives Matter Usos, right? Because they were pointing out, just like the hater does, that the Usos act like they're black, right? Now, that was just a joke. But the point is, the theory of the storyline is fodder for good stories, right? So let's say you had like a black wrestler who had done nothing wrong, right? And you have like the big boss man, let's say, right? Like a cop character who abuses him, right? This is cultural, this is relevant, and this is interesting, right? Then you have the black guy beat the big boss man, rest in peace, and then you have a storyline, right? You know, the good guy is going to win sometimes, and the bad guy is going to win other times, right? But if I have no reason to cheer, right? Like, for example, the primetime players are now serious. Pretty Deadly is also serious. Who do I like more? What do I base it on? What do I base it on? Like, why is Montez Ford better than Ashanti V. Adonis? Why? You know, what does he do differently? What does he do differently from Nathan Frazier? As far as I can tell, they're all guys with no gimmicks whatsoever, you know? And people really get caught up in this. Like a lot of wrestling fans I know are new, and they just fundamentally don't understand what a gimmick is, right? A gimmick is when you play a character. You understand me? Simple definition. So Montez Ford, just acting like a regular guy, is not a gimmick. That's just being a regular guy. Everyone acts like a regular guy. You know? Why? Just because he says, we want the smoke, it's just a catchphrase. There's no gimmick. Like, what's the difference between him and Chris Sabin? The difference is, neither of them like have a gimmick, but one of them is like 6'4" and the other one is Chris Sabin. But beyond that, why should I cheer for one over the other, right? And my belief is that society, that's right, the culture of America has been so sanitized that you can't have these storylines. Because you might have, like, let's say you run through the storyline of Val Venus sleeping with Goldust's wife and cucking him. You know you'd have some guy being like, cucking is good, you know what I mean? Oh, I watch cuckold porn, you know what I mean? Like these fucking weirdos. You'd have these people who would like just ruin it for everybody else by booing at the wrong moment and by cheering for the wrong. They probably cheer for Val Venus. They're like, Goldust should like being cucked just like I do, you know what I mean? Like this is the kind of people we're dealing with here, you know? Everybody's too sensitive. And that's because there are no outlets. And the irony is, wrestling was one of the outlets. Can you imagine how many people wrestling has pulled from the brink? You know what I mean? I know plenty of people myself who have told me straight up, they said, Hater, you know what I mean? Hater, if it weren't for wrestling, I would have killed myself. I had nothing to look forward to, they would say, except for Monday nights, you know, I'd have a shit week, 6 days and 22 hours, like, you know, of Mondays. Then I'd turn it on, and then I hope to see The Rock. And The Rock pulled me out of this, man, because he entertained me, you know? Wrestling was an outlet. Wrestling was a situation where, let's say you're the weird kid in school, right? You have Goldust, right? Goldust is going to get revenge for you. Oh, the more attractive, like more virile and better looking, you know, jock type guy, Val Venus, stole your girlfriend? Or he's more likely than that, he's just dating the girl that you secretly fantasize about like a creep, but nevertheless, right? Goldust is going to kick that guy in the balls and win for you, right? Oh, your boss treats you like shit? Your boss threatens to fire you? Well, guess what? So does Vince McMahon to Stone Cold. Stone Cold's going to get revenge for you, right? You live vicariously to a level through these characters, right? And music was no different. You know, like there's a big rise in school shootings. One of my opinions is that one of the reasons why this is happening is because there are no other outlets, right? The Hater knew many kids. I don't think that any of them would become school shooters, but they were weird kids, right? Like the kind of people that listen to like System of a Down and like Marilyn Manson, you know, but they have other problems, right? But guess what? At the end of the day, if they went home and they thought to themselves, man, I'm going to shoot up the school, right? Then they'd put on a CD, put on Marilyn Manson, and they'd feel good about themselves again. And maybe that would push them a little bit further in not shooting up the school. You see what I'm saying? The difference, motherfucks, is that nowadays, we have no outlets. What are the outlets today? You turn on Spotify instead of the radio, obviously, and you see Travis Barker, or Travis Scott, whatever the fuck that guy's name is, the Fiend. It's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then I look up this guy, and he's supposed to be this cool guy. He's like the size of Jey Uso, but like 100 pounds lighter. And what the fuck's this guy? This guy's not cool. You know? Oh, he dates like Kylie Jenner. So what? So what, motherfucks? She looks like a tramp. What do you think of them apples? Now, anyways, that's neither here nor there, cucks. The point I'm trying to make is that there's no outlets. Wrestling was a primary outlet because wrestling had all the characters. Now, wrestling has none of the characters. Let's say, I don't know, you're a Latino, right? Let's say you're a Latino child and you were bullied in school by your classmates because you don't speak Spanish. I mean, you don't speak English, right? Then you see someone cool like Eddie Guerrero with a thick accent, even though he's from America. I don't even know how they worked that out. Like, why does Eddie Guerrero have such a big accent? You know, he's from America. But anyways, nevertheless, you see the guy, and that guy is cool. He's getting women, you know? People like him. You're like, wow, maybe I can't be The Rock, but I can be Eddie Guerrero, right? Oh, shit, I'm from Texas. People think I'm weird. Maybe I can be JBL. Yeah? Oh, I'm black. I'm the only black guy at the school. Maybe I can be Farouk. Maybe I can be The Rock, right? You know, that's what wrestling gave us. And that's what a lot of entertainment has always given us, right? Someone that tells you, I understand, you know? And I'm going to, like, cater to you a little bit, right? I'm not going to cater to, like, the mainstream, the Justin Bieber listeners. Nothing wrong with that. The Hater loves a good Justin Bieber song. But you get what I'm saying, motherfucks. You know? Everything's the same. So you look to your left, you look to your right, you see, like, Harry Styles, and you're like, this guy doesn't get shit. The only people that are attracted to that are people that have other problems, right? The kids that would be like, oh, I'm different, right? I'm different, so I'm gonna like cut myself, which was obviously a bad activity. I'm gonna cut myself listening to Nine Inch Nails. I hurt myself today, whatever. Not the haters, kind of music, but I get it. It serves a purpose. Now those kids are like, oh, what is the equivalent of Nine Inch Nails? Like, none of this shit's like even remotely mainstream. Like, people knew and listened to these things. Like, normal people listen to Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson. Now there's no equivalent, right? So people are like, oh, what do I listen to? Oh, watermelon sugar. And then you see Harry Styles with pigtails in a dress, and you're like, oh shit, I'm weird too, just like him. Maybe I'll put on a dress, And then all of a sudden, nobody knows what bathroom to use anymore. You see what I'm saying? That's the problem. That's what society and culture have done to us. But wrestling must be held accountable as well. Because think about it. Wrestling could do all these things, right? Wrestling has been at the forefront of so much social progress. People don't give wrestling the credit it deserves, right? For example, Billy and Chuck, right? They were like a gay couple, but they were my favorite tag team when they were around, right? Great theme music. Both of them look like gods, right? Then it turns out they're not gay, and I was hoping they continue that partnership. Billy and Chuck, partners for life. Where else did you see tough gay dudes? Back then. Even now. Like, you know what I mean? Where else do you see that shit? Where else do you see the bad guy win, right? In wrestling. Where else do you see the underdog win? In wrestling, and sometimes very rarely in sports. That's what wrestling was, motherfucks. It was a reflection of society. The ills, the suffering of other people being reconciled through a dumbass 2-hour live show with shitty actors pretending to compete in a sport. Nowadays, the dumb fucks that are involved in this, they're like, oh, how do we make WWE great again? I know. Let's hire a Japanese guy with 3 moves who looks like shit and doesn't speak English. That's gonna work, right? That's gonna work only if he's like discriminated against for being Japanese and he stands up to like the oppressor or something, right? That's only gonna work if he's a goofy samurai and someone tells him, hey, you're not a real samurai. And that becomes a storyline, That's only gonna work if you make it work. If Nakamura is the same thing, let's say, as who's like a jobber ass heel. I'm trying to think of another one. Cedric Alexander when he was with the Hurt Business, That's another example. That's a great example, right? People are like, the Hurt Business was great. And I'm like, bro, the Hurt Business was just 4 guys in suits. That's all it was. People act like it was like this brilliant idea. It's just a stable. Just a stable who wants to win, right? We had a million of those back in the day. They didn't even have a gimmick. I mean, I guess their gimmick, the implied gimmick, is that they're in it for the money and they're black guys. Which is silly, Which, I mean, we have to make up our minds too. Like, do we like that or do we hate that, right? Like, because I personally don't like that in WWE, like all wrestlers of a certain like color or a certain race are just friends with each other. All of a sudden, like every Latino wrestler is either in like Gato del Fantasma or the LWO. Don't one of these guys want to be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna do my own thing. I guess Penta, but I mean, look at him. He's like a fucking clown. But you understand what I'm getting at, The point is, wrestling must reflect society. This is a good time for that because it's contentious times. And this not only serves as entertainment, but it serves as a relief, right? Maybe, let's say you're a white guy and you're, a borderline racist or something, right? That's not good, obviously. But let's say you're thinking, you know what? I'm going to go shoot up the black church like that guy did in like South Carolina, right? Now, let's say you see some evil white guy that reminds you of you, like a JBL, let's say, right? And he beats up a minority in Eddie Guerrero, right? And you're like, oh, good. Like, I'm cool with it, right? People, I know it sounds silly, but people think like that, right? And that's why all of these social ills that we have today were far less pronounced back in the day, right? Nobody was doing these things because they were like, oh, like I have an outlet of this. Like, even my shit opinion is represented. It's represented by the bad guy. The bad guy's going to lose in the end. But JBL is going to have like a 7-8 month, whatever it was, title run, right? And then he loses, and it is what it is. There's a new hero, But the point is, every perspective was represented. Now, no perspective is represented, right? The only perspective is like, are you a man or a woman, right? Because that's the only distinction they have nowadays in wrestling, right? Oh, it's the first women's Intercontinental Champion, right? And then sometimes they make points about race. It's like, oh, Bianca Belair is the first black woman to like main event WrestleMania. Like, so what? You know what I mean? Like, it had nothing to do with the storyline. She just happens to be black, We should be moving past that, motherfuckers. We should be moving past these things and moving towards actual equality, where everyone can make fun of everyone like it was in the 90s. Straight up. know what I mean? Where Booker T and Stone Cold, even, here's the thing, even when there was no storyline, like Booker T and Stone Cold, there was no storyline. Like the only storyline was Booker T and Stone Cold hate each other. So what do? They're like, oh, we don't have a storyline. How do we make this entertaining? I don't know, let's have a supermarket fight. One of the most memorable moments of like that year, right? They tried hard to entertain you. They tried hard to appeal to things that people want to see or sometimes want to do. You know, you walk by a supermarket, you see a carton of milk or a jug of milk, and you just want to grab it and slam it on the ground. Booker T will do it for you. Yeah? You don't have to do it now. Now, crazy guy doesn't have to go to the supermarket and just destroy shit like people do nowadays. Booker T will do it for you. Yeah? Perfect, right? Everybody wins. But nowadays, nobody wins. Because nobody is someone that anyone can relate to. You know, you can't relate to Finn Balor. You can't relate to Trick Williams because they're just two guys. Like, the only difference is that Trick Williams' name is Trick, so he can say, whoop that trick, and Finn Balor's name is Finn, so he can talk in an Irish accent. That's the only difference. Otherwise, they have the same motivations, and they're the same exact character. I'm a guy that wants to win. I'm a guy that wants to win. And then Axiom comes out of nowhere. I'm a guy that wants to win. Yes, we know. But back in the day, it wasn't like that. Not just in wrestling, but in entertainment. There were people that were like, I don't give a fuck. Right? Like Eminem at the Grammys. Like, he's like, I don't give a shit. You know, if I win this, it's rigged. Right? Let's just say, he would say, right? That made the Grammys interesting. People tuned in just to see that. Kanye West tried to do this many times in his career, but Kanye West is just a tool. Like, he's just a dork. You know what I mean? I've my opinions on him are very clear. He's a fucking idiot who's been told he's a genius a few too many times, and he believes it. Now he's just making an ass out of himself. You know what I mean? He's just cringe. He's just like a laughing stock. You know what I mean? This guy couldn't live a day in the life of the hater back in the day. Absolutely not. This guy would be crying. He's always crying and bitching and moaning. You know what I mean? So the point I'm trying to make, motherfucks, is that these outlets need to come back, and they need to come back not only for the sake of being outlets, so people don't fucking stab each other in the elevator for no reason nowadays. Right? There's a dude that burned a woman alive. You know? Straight up. You can look it up, motherfuckers. He burned a woman alive on the subway in New York. Maybe if this dumb motherfucker had been watching a Kane Inferno match, maybe he'd be like, hey, maybe I'm not going to do this shit, man. I saw it. It's out of my system. You know, whatever, right? Sometimes you need that shit. You need to appeal to the monsters in our society so they don't do monster shit. I'm not saying appeal to them like tell them they're good, but appeal to them and be like, yo, we recognize that you're fucking there. You know? So they don't have to remind us. Like, all of these school shooters are like, nobody like talk to me. Oh, I was never seen. That's another word that is like Gen Z uses. Oh, I want to feel seen. Go fuck yourself. What do you think of them apples? Right? So it's all these people like, oh, nobody paid attention to me. Back in the day, what happened was nobody paid attention to him either. But then he would go to like a drama club and they'd be like, hey man, have you heard the new like Lamb of God song? You know? And then they play Lamb of God and like, you know, dance like weird probably, whatever the fuck it is that they did. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Nowadays, the guys are like, nobody listened to me, so I'm going to kill 12 people. You know? It's complete monsters. Because nobody acknowledges them. It's kind of like what the point of the Joker in the movie was, right? Where it's like nobody acknowledges that we have like these lunatics next to us. The crowd was not intelligent enough to understand that Joker's the bad guy, right? They thought that the point of the movie was like, oh, nobody understands the mentally ill and they're the good guys. No, the point of the movie is we need to take care of this as a social issue. We shouldn't mistreat these people, not only because it's not okay to mistreat somebody, period, right? But also because sometimes you mistreat them, before you know it, the guy's dressed like as a clown, shooting motherfuckers in the street. You know, is that what you want? That's not what I want, right? I want good entertainment that stops us from doing this. I don't want to see Kendrick Lamar, like, waste a Super Bowl halftime show to have a feud with another pussy boy, you know, where if you combine the both of them, you get like a 5'4" man who's like 145 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit who's going to win this feud. You know, I'm not impressed by either of them. I'd slap them both in the face. What do you think of them apples? You know, I'm not going to slap Nelly in the face. He might kick my ass. I'm not going to slap DMX in the face. He might kick my ass. I'm not going to slap Kid Rock in the face. He might shoot me. I'm not going to slap Marilyn Manson in the face. He might tie me up, hang me upside down, and fucking ritual sacrifice me to like fucking, you know, like the Lamb of God people, you know? I don't know what's going to happen, but you understand what I'm getting at, right? People, we need a little bit of edge. If there's no edge and everybody's a pussy, then nothing's going to happen that's entertaining, right? And that's what the problem is with WWE, right? WWE doesn't want you to have a storyline that you can relate to, because the problem is the other side is going to get pissed off. They're going to get all butthurt. Oh, wow, like this person beat this person. I identify with the guy that lost. So what? Sometimes you lose in life. Cuck. You know what I mean? That's how it works. You know, sometimes the storyline is Matt Hardy loses his girlfriend in real life and in kayfabe to Edge, and then Edge also beats his ass and kicks him off of Raw and he goes to SmackDown. Right? Sometimes that's what happens in life. We all wanted Matt Hardy to win that feud, but it wasn't going to happen, right? That's why wrestling is awesome. So when you see that, even if you are the Matt Hardy in real life, like your friend stole your girl and you went to beat him up. I know people this has happened to. You went to beat up the friend and the friend beats your ass, let's say, right? You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, okay, at least it sucks. You know, I'm going to get my revenge. I'm going to murder him. Oh, wait. Oh, it just happened to Matt Hardy, too. He's going to SmackDown. Maybe I'll go to SmackDown one day. That's it. The end. End of the conflict, motherfuckers. That's the problem. I can't, and that's my that's my main gripe with WWE, right? You have some people that have talent, right? But you're confused on how to use them, you know? Like we have people like Carmelo Hayes, and it's like he has no idea what the fuck he's doing. He's good in the ring, but then they put him out there and they're like, act like you want to act, right? Or whatever, or act cool, whatever they tell him. I don't even know what to tell him, right? But then he's like, all right, I'm going to act cocky and arrogant. Yeah, we've seen this. It's called Shawn Michaels. You're not going to do it better than him. Like, it's impossible. Shawn Michaels is better than Carmelo Hayes in every metric. You know, he's better looking. Their physiques are pretty good, but you know, I would still give it to Shawn Michaels. He's 100 times better in the ring. His charisma is like 1,000 times higher. You know, like you're not gonna beat Shawn Michaels. Adam Cole, you're not gonna beat Shawn Michaels, motherfucker. You know what I mean? It's not gonna happen. Cut. It's not in you. You know, like your Trick Williams is the next Booker T. It's not in him. He's not the next Booker T. You know, Booker T's better than him in every category. How can he be the next Booker T? So that's what I'm getting at, right? Have them do something different. You know, if you're a small guy who has like an arrogant, I'm a good-looking guy persona, like Carmelo Hayes or like Adam Cole and these other people, right? Maybe don't be Shawn Michaels, because there can only be one Shawn Michaels. You're not going to be that dude, right? Kevin Owens is never going to be Stone Cold. How about Kevin Owens just becomes Kevin Owens? Problem is, Kevin Owens sucks. Problem is, everyone that I just mentioned sucks ass. So what do? Well, that's when the writers come in, and that's when society comes in. You can make anybody interesting with a good story. And at this point, I'll settle for any story. Forget a good story. That's like, holy shit, you know? Just give me a story, right? At this point, remember there was that storyline in NXT where Bull Dempsey was like fat and out of shape? And his thing was like bull fit, right? Where the whole goal was like Bull Dempsey's gonna get back into shape. That was great, you know? That can help some people out. It could entertain some people. Or instead, just have Obafemi come out there and say, this is my kingdom. This is my kingdom. That's what everyone said, you know? Like Roman Reigns says, this is my yard. Undertaker says, this is my yard. You know, John Cena says, if you want some, come get some. It's the same philosophy. The point is like, I'm the number one guy here, right? This is my kingdom, right? And people think this guy's gonna be a star. Why? So you can go on Raw and say, this is my kingdom. Shut the fuck up. Come up with a personality, you know what I mean? Come up with a character. You know, you're not gonna be able to like outdo the people that came before you, right? Because, I mean, the great ones at least. But it's not gonna happen, motherfuckers. And that's how it is, and that's how it's gonna be, you know? We need some pushes, and we need culture to kind of get like reset a little bit up in this mug. You understand what I'm saying, cuckolds?